Thank you for staying with us in Early Exchange. The conversation progresses. Now looking at the insurance business as National Assembly in Nigeria is proposing 25 million naira fine for persons unlicensed engaging in insurance business or a 2-year G term. It could even be both, depending on the circumstance or what the judgment the individual or the business gets. Joining the conversation in person in studio here is Sam Oruji, who is a public affairs analyst. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Blessing. A pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I like that you look Friday-ish.
Thank you.
All right, let's look at this conversation around insurance business. Now, the National Assembly is proposing jail term or a fine of 25 million naira for anyone who is unlicensed transacting insurance business. So it could be 25 million naira fine, it could be jail term, it could even be both, depending on the situation. And for the business that is unlicensed, the fee doubles, the fine doubles rather, it becomes 50 million naira, with principal officers also made to pay 50 million naira in any case that it is found that they are unlicensed and they're transacting illegally. Before we get into the fine for those who would be in this kind of business illegally, let's understand what insurance business entails, what kinds of services they offer.
All right, thank you. Before we talk about insurance in details, from a policy perspective, the insurance business is so critical to safeguarding investments or safeguarding risk, as it were. So where there's an infraction, particularly from the point of view that people do not have license to operate, but they collect premium. And at the end of the day, if anything goes wrong, then those funds cannot be accounted for. So the idea of insurance is to bring people to comfort if they suffer some losses as a result of the risk that the business has taken. So insurance is not to make you get profit, but then to minimize the risk in terms of whatever loss or damage you suffer in the course of your business transaction. So, but then there's a principle in insurance, no premium, no claim. So if you don't pay your premium, then when you get the loss adjuster to come and verify that claim, and there's no evidence that there was a premium paid to safeguard that asset or that risk, there's a likelihood that you will not get a claim from the insurance company. But we're in an environment where a lot of people don't really believe in insurance, maybe from a cultural perspective, that God Almighty will always protect whatever we have. But
it's not my portion.
yes,
That sort of thing.
yes. So the point here is that the law coming into play, in my view, would be the ability to execute that law. But then, in my view, is a welcoming piece of legislation that if it comes through finally, then that will safeguard businesses, particularly those insuring public.
So this proposal of the National Assembly is part of the proposed Nigeria Insurance Industry Reform Bill 2024 that seeks to overhaul the industry. Before the National Assembly is trying to intervene in some practices that may have been noticed in the industry, do you think that there is a need to make this law? What could happen if we have unlicensed practitioners in the industry?
First and foremost, for you to undertake that kind of business, you must be licensed within the regulatory framework that is being supervised by the Commissioner for Insurance at the federal level. So that the mandate of the Commissioner for Insurance is to regulate the practice of insurance brokers, insurance association, insuring companies, and the peripheral operators within. You have what you call actuary, those who do the mathematical calculations of those risks. So they fall within the purview. There are people who are licensed to play in that sector. So you must have a license. Number two, you must have a qualified chartered insurance broker who must be part of management, who understand the nitty-gritty in terms of principle and practice of insurance. So those are some of the fundamental elements that you already have insurance practice in Nigeria. But one of the major impediments to claim in Nigeria is that more often than not, you have quacks in that industry who give you an insurance policy that is not backed with an insurance cover. So when the need for a claim arises and you approach the insurance company, quote, even the motor vehicle, they are over 80% or thereabout, the last research that the Nigeria Insurance Association did, that are not in the books. But if you drive a car, you have a motor vehicle insurance that has one insurance company. But even if for a third-party claim, you cannot even activate it. So the law will bring to bear those who are practitioners from the point of view of brokers, insurance company, and all the ancillary industry that support the insurance practice in Nigeria.
I was coming there, but you got there before me. So let's take a look at the bill. It says a person who transacts any insurance business without being licensed for that purpose under this bill commits an offense and is liable on conviction in the case of an individual. So the person is liable to 25 million naira or imprisonment for a term of 2 years or both. In the case of a company, the firm or other combination of persons, each principal officer of the company, firm, or other combination of persons responsible to a fine of 50 million naira or to imprisonment for a term of 2 years or both. Let's get to the individual. You mentioned brokers. So they are quite common to find. It's quite easy for you to encounter someone who says he is an insurance broker. Now, whether licensed or not, many times you can't tell. You just assume that if they work with an insurance company or if they have their own private firm as brokers, it means that they're licensed. What do you see happening with this bill? It hasn't become an act yet, but they're still looking at the bill.
For me, the bill is worldwide. Number one, as a corporate entity, and you're operating within the industry, and you don't have a license, that means even the company will have been registered. So your particulars are with the CAC in Abuja. So a corporate liability, first and foremost, dealing with the company as an entity. Number two, individual that operates within those businesses if they are not licensed. That means for you to provide an insurance policy, cover a risk to the tunes of millions, and at the end of the day, you are not licensed and people cannot get claim. Therefore, you're equally liable as part of the management who is not licensed, so that at the end of the day, we're able to remove quacks from the industry. On the other hand, for you to even insure your asset or your risk, it's always proper to go through a broker, a licensed broker for that matter, who understudy what the underwriter, that's the insurance person, does. So that when there are certain elements of risk that are not covered, even as a business, you don't understand the throughput of insurance business, then the broker is in a position to advise you in terms of the extension. Extension means maybe you're doing a general insurance, fire, general peril, as it's called, and there are certain elements. For example, there was a bad governance protest, and somebody come in and put a fire on that building. But then if you don't have that extension, because the policy will have isolated anything that is damaged by public outcry cannot be insured. But minimally you can make an extension to say, even if there's a public disorder and there's a threat to my risk or to my asset, let me be covered to some extent. Therefore, the role of insurance broker, licensing is very critical. And I think this will bring some clarity in terms of insurance practice in Nigeria, where people are afraid to insure even their motor vehicles because they just believe that you can't make claims from insurance company.
So this fine now is 100-fold increase from what it used to be. It used to be 250,000 naira fine, now being increased to 25 million naira. Is that too much, or is it a deterrent?
No, to serve as a deterrent, mind you, some of the insurance practice law were English received law, the colonial laws that we inherited, and not much of tinkering has been done to some of these laws. And I think the wisdom of the National Assembly to put that amount is in consonant, particularly from the point of view, the advisory that we will have gotten from the National Commissioner for Insurance and the Nigerian Insurance Association, which is an umbrella body of insurance companies that operate within Nigeria. Then if you look at reinsurance, where some insurance companies are not able to carry adequate risk, so they reinsure some of those risks so that when the claims come, they are able to get value in terms of the risk. So if you look at it from that perspective, therefore, I think the fine and the option of jail, if you permit me, I'm not a lawyer, but if you see it from jurisprudence and the principles of treatment of offender and sentencing, I think both of them should go in a way that it can serve as deterrent. And the ones for individuals who are core professionals, their license, their professional practice license will be withdrawn. They serve a jail term and they pay a fine. And if it comes through, then that will help to sanitize the industry. But then the National Commissioner for Insurance must still do a lot of public enlightenment on the importance of insurance to the general public.
Yeah, good. You just pointed that if it comes true. So it's a conditional thing because we've often said here that it's not that Nigeria doesn't have enough laws or policies. Implementation is the key thing. So this bill is still in the process. If it scales through and becomes an act, what exactly would the Insurance Commission need to do to ensure that it is sanitized? Yes, the law may be there, but if there's nobody enforcing the law, if the people do not know what to look out for, how then can the system be sanitized? For instance, you want to have the service of a broker, and then you maybe see the signpost indicating that this company is an insurance firm, or such a person renders the services of renders insurance services. So how do you know for sure that this person is licensed? Do you need to ask for the license certificate to say, okay, yes, I know that you are a licensed broker? What responsibility now lies with the Insurance Commission?
All right. Number one, fundamentally, as a regulator, what you need to do, those who obtain license from you must be in your database. Therefore, for you to do any business from a legal perspective, a due diligence must be undertaken by whoever is going to do the business. So, for example, I'm going to insure an asset of over 100 million. I will not just walk into any insurance broker or any insurance company, for that matter, that is not licensed. I will do due diligence by, number one, looking at the dashboards of the Nigerian National Insurance Commission and the National Commissioner to find out, first and foremost, whether this insurance company or insurance broker is in good health to do business with. So, and as a regulator, it's your responsibility, as it were, to inform the public. And from time to time, you do a mass education of the public. These are the 100 or 200 insurance companies or insurance broker or any ancillary service, even actuaries that do some of those risk calculations for some of the major insurance company, even the reinsurance company, even the offshore insurance company that they place some of the assets in terms of insurance. You must put them into that pool in your dashboard so that people can make informed decision. Number two, as a regulator, once there's an infraction and once there's a report that SY company is doing a transaction and they don't even have approval in principle from the regulator, immediately you need to shut down that insurance company so that you can minimize the risk that people can put money into an asset. And at the end of the day, when that asset is troubled, then people cannot make claim on that asset.
All right, so the bill stipulates that any entity applying for a license must be incorporated as a limited liability company under the Companies and Allied Matters Act. And this is also to ensure that the business is very legal, is a recognized legal entity. So when this is done, further it says that the business must conduct within best practices and ensures that it conducts its business in soundness to avoid certain risk and financial stability. One of the discouragements to people taking up insurance policy is the aspect of claims payment. So we have some insurance companies that are there, people pay premium, people pay at different times for different covers. But when it's time to pay the claims, it becomes like a very long process. The bureaucracy there is much. What can be done about this? Is there a need for measure, as we see in the banking sector, some form of consolidation?
Well, before I go into the issue of consolidation of some of the insurance company, some consolidation was done about 5 years ago, if my memory serves me right. But what is critical for the insuring public, just like every Nigerian business, everybody's in a hurry to do things. People don't like due diligence. They don't like processes. So you take an insurance policy. There are certain disclaimer on that policy document that is at the back of that policy statement. But like every Nigerian, you will not take time to look at the nitty-gritty of those statements. So you insure an asset or a business or a risk, as it were, and the terms of that insurance, you do not even educate yourself. And I mentioned earlier in our conversation, there's what we call extension to the claim. There are other ones that you may not even carry as a business, then you just put it at the purview of the person without an advisory of a core professional. So first and foremost, the insuring public must understand the principles and practice of insurance. So you go into that business, what are you insuring? What are the extensions? What are the values? What are the loss? There's a limit when you show an asset that they call loss adjustment. There are certain principle of percentage of what insurance can take, what you can even take at the end of the day. But more often than not, people do not understand that principle. And that's when I talk about education that is critical from the regulator and from the insurance company. Number three, which I mentioned earlier, for you to secure your asset or your risk or your investment, for that matter, you need a professional broker who is an intermediary. Just like in the bank, that's what we call financial intermediation, where somebody is a bridge between the insurance company and the insured, who understand the nitty-gritty, who's able to advise you properly. So if we're able to do those three elements from the regulator, from the Nigeria Insurers Association, and other association that you have one for brokers as well. So shouldn't leave that. You have the Nigerian Brokers Association within the stakeholder in that insurance regime. So they have a responsibility, as it were, to educate the insuring public. Even the member of the association should understand the nitty-gritty of the kind of risk that they can carry, as it were. So if they are going to do a pooling of risk in terms of having one or two, three insurance companies pulling the risks together. So when there's a claim, they're able to minimize the impact of that claim. But like I mentioned, which is very critical, insurance does not bring you to profit. It only brings you to comfort. And that's one of the misconceptions. Maybe you put a premium of 100 million. At the end of the day, you're expecting maybe 100 something million or even 100 million. Insurance does not work that way. It only brings you to comfort. So maybe you put 100 million there. You're able to minimize your losses by even paying 80 million. When the loss adjuster, who's an independent person, again, within that ecosystem, who will go to verify the damaged assets and inform the insurance company with a technical report advising the insurance company, this is a contingent liability that you can cover as an insurance company, and these are the claims you can make. So this general language in the public space that insurance don't pay claim is not true. Insurance pay claim. Once those claims are authenticated and are based on the policy framework or the policy you were issued, then you get a claim. But this idea that people want to make profits from insurance is not sustainable, and that's not insurance business.
The situation where it seems to be like a lot of gray areas in insurance policies. So you need to check the terms and conditions. You need to have someone interpret to you
The
what
risk,
the risk covers, what your policy covers,
yes.
and under certain conditions which they would apply. And that's part of the reasons some people don't want to have anything to do with it or do with some type of insurance. If you look at the health insurance, it seemed like more people want to key into it because it's almost very easy. You don't really need people to interpret to you, aside the fact that your HMO may tell you, oh, this is the extent of your coverage. Maybe your what you're paying covers certain kinds of treatment. If you want more, then you pay more. That's quite simple. Unlike some other type of insurance, maybe property insurance, maybe even life insurance, that is quite complex for the policy holder to understand.
I think in principles and in practice, I think it's not the complexity. It has to do with public perception of that particular business, and it has its own origin. Why this perception has been in the public space for a long time. So if you take a little dive back into history of insurance business in Nigeria, you had what you call the briefcase insurance men who were insurance agents who were moving from one point to the other. And they collect either motor, which was very, very common insurance, motor insurance, third party, which by law, in addition to the road tax, what they call the vehicle license, people were compelled by law to have this. But when there was a problem, even those who have comprehensive insurance, the agent just gave them a piece of information. Then when they want to make a claim, that claim doesn't come true. So that perception over the years has stuck with the average insurance public that insurance don't make claim. So it's education, then understanding the various elements. So if you're doing a general insurance practice, for example, life insurance that you talk about is a bit simple, apart from age, which is a major factor when it's life insurance, because at a certain age, then the risk you're able to carry become minimal. So insurance company, once you are age 55 to certain element, there are certain things that they cannot put in your claim. For example, on the event of death, what kind of amount can you put on somebody that is already 60? So those are clear elements. Then for general business, there are technical issues of property. So if you want to insure the studio, for example, you have a lighting system, you have the cameras, you have other elements within the studio. That forms another element of insurance. Then we want to insure the physical building. what you call in insurance principle, house owner, householder. So those are the two elements. So if you don't understand that, you insure one aspect and you don't cover the other risk, and there's fire, but the property, as it were, as an entity, you didn't take cognizance of it. You only take cognizance of your item. So what are the contingent risk that is coming from the fire? So if that thing is not covered, it becomes a problem. So with other insurance, or you're bringing a cargo into the system, that's what we call cost rate insurance. So if anything happens at sea, and if it's not covered, then there's a problem. So we need to understand the various elements. You need a technical person to advise you so that you make an informed decision when you want to buy an insurance policy. So when the need for claim arises, then you're able to make claim, and the insurance will pay your claim as at when due.
Thank you for being with us. Or on L Exchange, you can leave a comment at this point to ask a question if you want Sam Arujo, who is a public affairs analyst, to attend to some of that. What are your concerns regarding insurance business in Nigeria? Let's talk about it, even as the National Assembly is proposing fine and jail term for those who are licensed practicing insurance business in Nigeria. What are your thoughts in this? Let's expand the conversation. In recent times, we've seen some insurance companies getting into investment securities. Are they allowed to do that?
Yeah. Even within the licensing regime that you just spoke about, there are two frames of a license that is issued by the National Insurance Commission. One has to do with general business, so you need to have a license for general business. On the other hand, if you want to go into life, you have a life policy. Even if you are a composite insurance company, that means you're doing general and life. You need to have a license for those two. So within the policy framework, yes. So you have investment as part of core elements of insurance that has to do with life. So that investment portfolio you talk about, it could be an educational investment. It could be an investment that has to do with a life. If you're working for S number of years, so you want to place yourself on an insurance policy. So when you retire, you have some investment to take. So from a comparative financial investment management approach, what you get from insurance, as it were, in terms of return, is higher than the money market or the capital market, because insurance, more often than not, is calculated based on annuity over time for those in the area of investment. So even for pension, you can take your pension and put it on insurance investment, so you collect annuity over time, where rather than when you have a program collection principle on retirement. So they have the legal framework to do investment, but these investments are tied to a kinds of insurance investment, either life itself, either providing education or a risk element. For example, if I want to secure the continuity of my children who are in school, maybe, God forbid, as we say in our country, I pass on.
It's not your portion.
Yes, I pass on. So somebody is able to take the education policy, which is contingent to the policy that I've taken. So maybe a school fees is paid for 3 years, 4 years, depending on what you have in that policy. So within investment portfolio, they have what it takes to do investment.
Aside the trust issue, some Nigerians not having trust for the insurance industry, what other factors could be responsible for insurance companies not really taking up the services or buying insurance policies?
Like I mentioned earlier, education is key. The historiography of insurance practice terms of people taking premium for people without remitting them to the insurance company and give them what they call a fake cover. And at the end of the day, people couldn't make a claim. So we need to clear up that element. But for every serious business, there's an insurance. So most of the banks even insure their loan portfolios and all that. So education for the general public. But there are certain elements of insurance that are compulsory. So if you are going to export some item, you must insure. So you are compelled to do that. But from a general perspective, people don't want to walk into an insurance company with a view to securing their asset. Okay? So it's education, but insurance is good. It brings you to a point of comfort, not a point of profit. So more education from the insurance companies, more education from the regulator, more education from the brokers, more education to the actuaries who work to calculate risk for most of the insurance companies. So if there's a collaborative effort with the various associations or with the entire ecosystem or the value chain that you have in insurance, if that education is sustained, I think there'll be more people in the insurance pool. In the last 20 years, if you look at the Nigerian Insurance Association, vis-a-vis the number of people that have done business with insurance and the claims that have been paid out to the public, there's a greater improvement. And the improvement is an involving improvement, not only insurance, even financial services in totality.
What about economic factor? Does it play?
Oh, yes, those factors are taken into cognizance where the underwriter, the risk underwriter, which is the insurance company, they take the vagaries of the economic reality and they factor that into making those claims. So that is one of the major elements of the underwriter from the insurance company. Then even the person insuring must factor some of those things. So, and that's why I talked about extension earlier. So even somebody insuring the business of maybe an asset that is worth 100 million today, if you look at the rate of inflation and the cost of fund, you can factor that into those elements and do a kind of forward swap calculation that can take cognizance that even the risk that you're insuring, maybe in 2 years, if there's a need for a claim, then you can absorb additional money that can bring you to comfort.
Earlier you mentioned that the National Insurance Commission has a role to play in sanitizing the system. What would technology help in playing this role? How would technology help in playing this role?
Most insurance company has invested massively in technology. Technology is an enabler. So it fast tracks the processes of maybe a policy framework, a claim resolution mechanism. Once you put those factors in an IT interface, then some of these perception in the public space will reduce. So you put an app, for example, who tells you when your insurance is due, where you're supposed to put an additional policy framework in place to safeguard your asset, then technology will drive that process. So therefore, there should be massive investment in technology, and even in terms of education. The insurance company need to do more technology. I do know for sure that in terms of life insurance, some of those operators within the market will not be able to mention specific name so that we don't get a marketing bill. So the point is that app is playing a major role in delivering services. For example, once you impute your age into an application, and maybe you are 55, then whatever risk you are going to carry for life insurance will naturally come down because those imperative has already been imputed into the system. So the artificial intelligence tool will be able to aggregate those information and make an informed decision, which the underwriter be able to do from time to time.
All right, as we wrap up the conversation, just the thought of what's going to happen to those who are unlicensed but operating in the insurance industry. What do you think is going to do the mere fact that this bill has been conceded by the National Assembly, where 225 million naira will be charged those who operate in the industry without license instead of the usual 250,000 naira. And then for the firm, they will be made to pay a fine of 50 million naira if they are caught to be operating without proper license. That's news alone, that information alone Is it going to bring some sanity even before the bill becomes an act?
For those who want to do genuine business, as it were, who know what they want to do, well, that's very critical. So they will want to do due diligence in terms of trying to get license, so they don't have infraction into the regulatory framework. So that's for sure. Number two is a message to those who are counterfeiting or into quackery, as the case may be, that is not business as usual. That if the law catch up with you, even when you have the capacity to pay as a corporate entity 25 million, as individual managers who are the operators within that sector will equally pay a fine and go to jail, then I'm sure a lot of people would not want to be in that trajectory because there's a stiffer penalty that is coming to play. Therefore, people would think twice before they want to go into that kind of fraudulent practice, as it were.
Many thanks, Sam Marujo, Public Affairs Analyst, for your time on L Exchange this Friday morning. You're looking Friday, you deciding to release you to go enjoy your weekend.
Thank you very much.
All right, wrapping up, I need to say that whatever is worth doing is worth doing well. So if you must participate or you must transact an insurance business as a broker, as a firm, then of course get a license so you do not pay 25 million naira, 50 million naira as the case may be, or even back 2-year due term after paying that fine. For you who wants to be an insurance policy holder or just want to have some business, open your eyes very well. Be sure to do your own due diligence so that the firm you're transacting with, the broker you're transacting with, are licensed. I'm Blessing AHA. Follow us on the social media platforms, News TV, on Facebook, on Instagram, on X. Watch programs from Sook News TV on our YouTube channel at Sook News TV. Drop a comment. Tell us what you think about it. If you have questions, please feel free to drop them. I'll see you again Monday. Until then, enjoy your weekend. Market Insight comes up at 11 here on Sook News TV.
Early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.